3D Christmas Tweety Bird Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you this adorable little Tweety bird. I was hanging up ornaments on my Christmas tree, a different Christmas tree from this one. There's 7 in my house. There's 7 Christmas trees. Anyways, I was hanging up ornaments and I noticed I had a couple Tweety bird ones that are just, they're so cute and they're so bright, and I just thought that would make an adorable little nail art design. Plus, Tweety bird reminds me of my parakeet, who, if you haven't met, I'll post a video of my Grinch face painting video down below because she's very, very prevalent in that video, and she is, you know, just hanging out on my shoulder throughout the whole thing. So if you haven't met her, or if you haven't seen her and you're curious, check that video out because she's definitely in there. Anyways, I hope you guys like this design as much as I do. I think she's adorable, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future holiday designs as well. So I'm going to begin with an overlay of white acrylic, and so I'm just going to start out. And when I did this, I know I mentioned this in a different video where I had a white background, where I did it in white, and then later on that same day I'm like, oh my goodness, I have so many pretty shimmery, like off-white acrylics that I always forget that I own to use, and that would have looked amazing in the background. But nonetheless, I forgot they existed, so I didn't do that. But after that white background is on there, I'm going to be encasing the nail with a layer of clear acrylic. The reason I used white in the background to start with is just I want it to be a very plain background, so it didn't take away from Tweety. So clear would have worked fine. White, even like you could have done a little bit of a green, but she kind of blends into green possibly, so keeping it on the lighter side is recommended. But I'm just encasing the nail to make sure it's nice and strong, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to be filing it with my e-file, and I just started with a coarse bit to really make sure that it has a nice good shape, kind of thin out the edges and make sure everything looks good, and just go over it that way. Yeah, so I'm starting out with this bit that I have, it really takes off a lot of acrylic at once, so kind of don't want to overuse that one. But then I'm going to be taking a much finer bit and refining the surface texture, and kind of this bit, since it has such straight sides, works really well for perfecting the free edge. It does an amazing job of that. So now I'm going to be sculpting out my Tweety bird, and I started with her head, so I'm using a very bright yellow acrylic, and I'm just going to begin. She's kind of turned to the side, so you get a different perspective than if she was looking straight at you. And her hat, which I'll sculpt later, is very off to one side and kind of falling off her head almost, it looks like. And then I'm going to be adding her little body below that. So she's almost like a bobblehead in shape. She's got a very big head and then just a little body. So then after I have that, so I've got her head and her body, and then I'm going to be adding her arms, or I guess they're not arms, they're wings. So now I'm going to be adding her wings. Ignore my illogical speak. Just like that. So this video is actually about half the speed that I usually speed my videos up to. So this is only double time. Usually my acrylic videos are about 4 times the speed that they are in real time. So I just want to mention that because people a lot of times will ask me, can't you ever do videos that are slower? Well, this one is. And so I hope you guys like that. And actually quite a few of them that I'm uploading this Christmas are a little slower than I normally make them. So I hope you guys appreciate that. And then I'm going to be adding her little tail. And so when I grab these little beads of acrylic, I really am being very careful with how much monomer is on my brush, and I watch it to make sure that her arms are the same size. You want to dip your brush the same into the monomer and the same into the polymer each time you do that, so that you can make sure they're the same size. Because if you follow the same dipping process, your bead is going to be very, very similar. So that kind of helps you out. And I kind of missed mentioning this part, but I added the shapes to her face. I added the little thickness to her forehead, and then what I would call down the bridge of her nose, but she has a beak, so down the bridge of her beak. And then I added her beak with orange, and now I'm going to be adding her Santa hat. So like I said, this is very lopsided, so it does cover up a portion of her face that we sculpted, and it does also cover up part of her eye that is farther away from the camera, or the viewer, whatever you want to call it, farther away from you. So just add her little Santa hat. Sorry, I'm kind of going off camera here. And it's, like I said, definitely off to the side there, and it's got the little bit that hangs down where you're going to end up putting the little fluff ball on the end of it. But then when you go through and you start adding the white, which I'm doing right now, it kind of wraps around the side of her head, because you don't get to see that back portion of the hat, but that little fluffy part it sticks out a little bit more, so you can see it on the other side of her head. So when I add that in just a moment, you'll see what I mean, how it kind of goes around it. And then add that little poof ball on the end of the Santa hat. And then here's where I'm talking about, see how it kind of goes around the side of her head more, kind of wraps around there. Yeah. So now with acrylic paint, I'm going to be adding all the details with her face. I started with the white in her eyes, and this is where, like I said, part of her eye gets covered up by her Santa hat. And since my white paint is a little bit brighter than my white acrylic, I'm going to add a highlight to the trim on her hat with some more of that white paint, which is going to help distinguish it from the background and make it look a little bit more vibrant. And then I'm going to be doing her little blue iris in her eyes. She's got nice bright blue eyes. And then I'm going to be adding a highlight on my Santa hat with red paint. Same thing, my red paint is a bit brighter than my red acrylic, so it shows up as a highlight, which works out really, really well and makes it look really, really vibrant. And then I'm going to be taking diluted black paint and adding my highlights. So when I dilute my black paint, it's just ever so slightly diluted, and it just makes it so that my lines are a little easier to control. So then I'm going to take and I'm going to be doing pretty much outlines everywhere. She is a cartoon, and she's an older cartoon at that, so outlines are very prevalent. So she's got a little outline down the center of her chest, and then also one down the center of her tail as well. That's not one of the other major outlines. And then I'm going to be outlining her hat. This is very important since you want to make sure that the white trim on her hat is definitely visible versus the white background. Also, adding the gel sealer and the matte, having that glossy matte difference will help keep those distinguishable. And then I'll add little details to her eyes. So I'm going to start with the little line on the bottom of her eye, outline her eyes, and then add her eyelashes. She's got very long eyelashes that actually go up over the trim of her hat on the one side, and then add the little pupils, and then go back through and add the other two outlines to her other eye, which I just forgot to do. And then I'm going to be adding a little reflection dot in each eye to make her eyes look nice and shiny. And then apply a shiny gel sealer to the white background. Like I said, having a glossy versus matte will help distinguish the 3D from the non-3D. And then apply matte top coat over the top of your Tweety bird. And she is all done. I hope you guys like this. I absolutely adore the little Tweety bird. Like I said, I have Tweeties all through my house. I've got figurines and a pillow, so I hope you guys like her too, and please share any recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!